time. Alright, Matt, this is the heart of vampiric territory. Meyer Link is around here somewhere. Make sure to keep your guard up.
Mike, are you sure about this? Aren't vampires supposed to be, like, immortal and stuff?
Don't worry, Matt. We've got our secret weapon. The Buddy Barbs! Whoa! Okay, let's get to it.
Hey, those barbs are awesome. Can I try them out?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Let's switch.
Here. Okay.
Well, what do we have here? Intruders into my domain?
Matt, wait!
Humans, you should know better than to meddle in affairs beyond your comprehension.
We're saved!
It's Vampire Hunter D! Well, more like Vampire Hunter V, as in Vince Frost. It's Buddy Shotz 131. Vampire Hunter D week. Or as you say, Mike Week.
Mike Week.
So,
Welcome to the vampire race.
Fangs for nothing.
You're looking a little long in the tooth.
Yeah. Hopefully, you guys can really sink your teeth into this episode. For me, anyway, it was a bloody good time going back and watching these films.
There's just a lot at stake.
Yeah.
Vampire puns.
That's about as good as it's going to get right there.
Dracula.
You came up with a good one there.
Well,
a lot was at stake. Film 64.
I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
I agree. And I first of all want to thank everybody for watching this. We've been doing all kinds of fun movies. And if you like what we do, become a buddy and subscribe today. And we'll forever love you for it.
I can't make that promise, but
You hate our
do it
viewers. Matt's like has a dartboard with every new viewer. He's like, "Bleh!" But you miss on purpose because you can't harm a buddy. It's the first law of robotics for podcasts.
a buddy cannot harm
Yeah.
a buddy.
I cannot by inaction harm a buddy or let a buddy go to harm. We're the buddy bionics. Okay, so poll time. We got YouTube first. No one had seen either one of them.
Oh, there you go.
But
Add me to that list.
yeah, over on Twitter, we actually had quite a different outcome. 67% of the people said they had seen either one or the other, and 33% said no. And then we had four no's and one yes on Instagram. So I think we've got a different dichotomy of like viewers and stuff that interact with us on Instagram, and I guess I would say Twitter. Whereas if you're watching this now, X-Word. So, yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, Elon Musk, X-Word. I'm like, you want to bow to the masters? It's like, huh? So,
Donald Sutherland and Kiefer. Or like,
yeah, X-Word. They're like, suck at DMX. I was like, how wrong did this go so quickly? I like said that backwards like Yoda. I meant, how did this go wrong so quickly? I'm like, how wrong? I'm like, begun the Clone Wars have. So let's talk about, I guess, what this stuff's based on. This is based on pretty much like a 40 novel long series that's been going on for a long time.
Wow.
And they've sold like pretty much over 17 million copies, which makes it one of the best-selling book series like in history. Which I was kind of shocked about because I knew of the series and I knew of the books. I didn't know that there were like 40 books in the series. Like this guy kind of writes them and stuff. And,
Same author?
Yep.
Wow.
I think they're probably like maybe like side stuff like you obviously like the game and like the animes and stuff like that. But like, and there's a comic that just came out that I got through Kickstarter that I have to read, and I probably should have read it beforehand, but that's okay.
Didn't do your homework.
I didn't. I didn't understand the assignment. I didn't have enough time. I probably should have planned this out better, but I think I've put enough into this. But I tried going through some of the books, but like each one's like 8 hours long. So I would have had to have started this like before I even nominated this, which I probably should have done. But pretty busy doing stuff for the podcast anyway. So yeah, let's get to like the first movie here. And for people that aren't aware, the actual character that's the center of both of these films is a character that just goes by D. He has no real like full name or whatever, but it's funny because in the books they call them like Dampires, but in the movies it's like Dompeels is what they kind of go by, but it's like a half human, half vampire. He's essentially what Alucard from like the Castlevania Symphony of the Night games and stuff was based on.
It made me think of the last time I had a banana.
Damn, you fell and you were like, damn, peel! Yeah, it's kind of a weird... Yeah.
I was reading maybe that was a translation error, potentially, from English.
Because the first one came out in, like, the 80s, and then, like, the sequel came out in 2000s, and even 2000s, like translations and voiceovers, like, aren't... they're not like what they are today, where it's very supervised, because for a while there, just as, like, a little aside, like, they used to just let them do whatever the hell they wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, 2000, that's the same year as Godzilla 2000. Yeah. The worst dubbing in history.
Yeah. I'm sure there's worse, but it's the worst one I've ever seen. But we watched, we watched that, but that was around the time when they kind of started catching on, like, wait a minute, this is, like, completely different than, like, what we intended and stuff, and localization is definitely important, but, like, there was a lot of kind of just going out of their way and just doing whatever the hell they wanted, and it was kind of hurting the products. So nowadays it's like any of the English stuff is overseen by like the other side first. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and I guess we'll talk about the first one. It came out in '85. Essentially both of these are horror, post-apocalyptic, like fantasy. I guess there's a bunch of like Western films. It's like, it kind of reminds me of like The Gunslinger by Stephen King, with like vampires and like supernatural, like paranormal, kind of like there's werewolves and all, pretty much anything you can think of.
Every cool thing thrown together.
It's very much like, this and Castlevania, very similar. But the first one, anyway, they kind of both have like female things with like, you know what I mean, like a woman being taken or like being, but they're kind of different in the outcome. But, the first one, Doris Lang is chosen as the next bride for the vampire Count Magnus Lee, who is
Magnus.
Magnus.
I couldn't stop thinking about that the whole time.
I actually didn't think about it at all until you just said that, because I was thinking of Christopher Lee, because that's who like they based this character on.
I figured that.
Besides like Lugosi, he's probably like the best known Dracula person to play Dracula.
For sure.
She will hire a mysterious vampire hunter known only as D and attempt to escape her ill-gotten fate. So she's been bitten by the Count, and like he's wanting to take her as like a bride, essentially against her will. And yeah.
Yeah. So before we like talk about these in detail, like in general, I really liked both these movies, but I'm gonna have trouble because like for me I was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
With, like I almost need to watch them again.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I'm watching movies, like I get so into the visuals.
Yeah.
Like I stop paying attention to the story and like dialogue.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whoa! Look at this image. It's so
Yeah.
awesome. So like I don't know if they've even sunk in yet because there's so much like visual imagination.
Yeah, like
They're a feast for the
right.
senses.
The first one is like they have very different art styles.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was 85 and the second one is 2000. 2000 was around that time when they were doing like I don't know what kind of art style it was, but it was like a lot of other films I can think of like Ghost in the Shell and like what's it called, like Ninja Scroll had these like kind of like almost hyper realistic
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
features.
I like the style of the first one much better, but they're both like cool in unique ways.
Yeah, nice. And you said you had never heard of either one of these.
I'd heard of them because I have a memory
of like me maybe like showing you Bloodlust or something.
Yeah,
at one
well,
point.
I remember watching like a half hour of it.
Yeah.
Because did you have the DVD back then?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
I have a memory of like in college you brought the DVD up and we watched like part of it.
Yeah, I tried to use...
And I was like, this is something I should get into.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, never...
I used to try to, like, get everybody to watch, like, anime and anime films and stuff back in the day to varying degrees. You were definitely a lot more open to it than a lot of our other friends. Some of our other friends were like, okay, fuck this, let's watch a real movie, like a live-action film.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I remember, you know, like, this and then, like, Golden Boy and a bunch of other, like, stuff that I would show that were just, like, funny and, like...
Yeah.
crazy and stuff, things that I thought that like you would like, or weirdly enough, yeah, we never watched like the Ghibli films back then for sure. But this was one that Bloodlust, remembering especially being like I was blown away because of there were so many, like you said, not only like the visuals, but like there's so many things introduced like all the time with like new characters and new like ideas for like this and that and all this other stuff, and
Yeah.
they're very good companions, like, to watch because the first one is based on the first book, and the second one is based on the third book. So...
Yeah, so in the first movie, when within the first 5 minutes, there's like a dinosaur and a werewolf. I was like, this is the best thing about it. This is amazing.
Yeah, there's like a demon, like, dinosaur, and it's like eating an apple, and then, like... the lady goes to kill it, and then it like bites her horse, and then a werewolf shows up and kills it for sure, and then a fucking vampire shows up, and it's like, how much worse can things go for one person?
But I also like the first one was much more bloody
Yes.
than the second one, and I enjoyed that part of it as well. Like the
stylized. I
like
like the second one way more.
Really?
But like the first one, I like. I think that the second one is like a better story as well. I like what they did with it, but we'll definitely like... This isn't going to be like a situation like with, what's it called, like Strike Commando, where I hated one and loved the other one. I think I really like both of them. But I think to varying degrees and stuff like that. I like the intros for this one where it's like, they talk about like it takes place in the distant future. That's another thing is like this takes place in like 12,000 AD. So this takes place like in the very far future where it's like
civilization is turned to dust.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, really like something happened, and then vampires like took over after like an apocalyptic thing, and then now even so much time's gone past that like their numbers are dwindling and stuff. So it's like age is like has no meaning for certain things, but they say when mutants and demons slither through a world of darkness, Wait, what? I think I put two of my fucking notes here together, because then I have a thing that says the lady with the gun is walking through tall grass. Okay.
There you have it.
Yeah. That's not what it said. It didn't say, like, in the distant future, a lady walks through the tall grass. So,
lady.
So I want to address this, but, like, especially, like, in the original, this was, like, back when, like, they were, like, fan service all the way, baby, because, like, there are multiple times in this when, like, you see up, like, this, like, lady's skirt, which I thought was just, like, a thing of that time, but I started reading the book, and it's even worse. In the first, like, 8 minutes, when she confronts D or whatever for the first time, she goes to attack him, and he just, like, you know, it's like, whatever, and then she's like, okay, now I really mean business, and she, like, completely gets naked and goes to fight him. So...
This was, like, pre-woke culture, you know, every female was hypersexualized.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was also before they were, like, started putting the story first to a degree, because, like, a lot of these old animes, like, having someone completely naked or doing, like, upskirt shots was, like, something that anime did, like, to a fault, to where people were like, you watch that weird, like, cartoon stuff where, like, women show their, like, you know, undergarments all the time and stuff, and it's like, yeah, and at the time, I mean, I didn't really think about it, but going back now and watching it, it's like, it doesn't really, like, I'm not like, this is horrendous, but it's definitely, like, when it happens, like, 3 times in the movie, you're just kind of like, okay, because their skirt's also, like...
Only 3 times?
Well, it's probably more than that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely jumps out to
a degree. So, like, Mega shows up, or the Nega shows up. He's like, Quark? And he's like a 50-foot tall vampire. He's not really that tall, but he looks so, like, he's like glooming or whatever.
That was really cool. Cool reveal with the lightning flashes.
And he's like, allow myself to introduce myself. I'm Count Magnus Lee, and this is my wife, Oprah.
Magnus.
At your service. We've got a lot of, like, yeah, like there's little goblins that scurry in this at the beginning. I was like, oh, frightening.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed all the monster madness.
There's a lot of wind in this first one. Like, a lot of the animation takes place when, like, wind is at its height.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the audio mixing, I think, was a little weird because...
Did you watch the subtitled or dubbed?
Dubbed.
Okay.
But, like, I think, like, Dee's voice at times, they had it too low. And other times it was fine. But it's, like, I don't think it was a performance thing. I think it was, like, they didn't, like, pump up his voice enough. Because, like, when we first encounter him, it's like, huh?
Well, that's his thing. He's always soft-spoken, like, no matter what. You can't phase him.
But in the second one, you can definitely hear everything he says. So it's not like... I think it was just an audio... Because there's definitely a lot of stuff in this where, like, yeah, like you said, he's soft-spoken, but it's still, like, you can still hear it. Did you hear it? Or did you hear it? Did you listen to the dub? Or
I dubbed. I like to watch subtitles, but with something that was, like, so visual, I wanted to be able to focus on that.
I'm more of a dub person when it comes to anime, because, I mean, I guess it's, honestly, it's both dubbed, because drawings don't have fucking voices.
What?
But, you know, I've always been more of a dub person. Not all the time. I'm not like dub over sub, but I guess that's just kind of how I watch it, because it's easier for me to just watch something rather than have to keep up with something that's super action oriented and subtitled.
What do you think of the character of D?
I like him. I think he's like a cool character. Like, he's very much like I said, like the gunslinger in the Stephen King books, where he's like, or like Clint Eastwood, where he kind of just comes in and, like, is, like, the mysterious stranger archetype, where he, like, comes in, and he should almost always be like, you know what, this isn't my problem, I'm here for the money, but it's honestly not the way it really is, because he almost always ends up getting into, you know, in a way where he ends up, like, putting himself out there. But I guess, like, more so, though, because, like... D, Vampire Hunter D, he's kind of like a character that's, I'm pretty sure, like, not killable. He seems very, like, you know, super strong.
It's a great design. Like,
Yeah.
I always hear people, like, especially in animation, talking about, like, a recognizable silhouette.
Yeah.
And he definitely has one. Like,
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
really cool. He kind of reminds me of, like, a Boba Fett. Like, it's the coolest looking character, but he's pretty simple. Like, it's, you know, it's not like he's going to change over the course of...
Maybe they'll put him in a Sarlacc pit and ruin his character.
Yeah. He's like,
beat his
I have
ass
way too
for-
much dialogue in
yeah.
this.
Maybe he'll go on like a 10-hour long like speech. Even though I mean that's the thing is like when he talks, it's not like if he talked a lot, I wouldn't be like, oh, this is bullcrap because like he has something to say.
Yeah.
Whereas like Boba Fett, he like you said, he looks cool, but they never like set him up to be anything more than just like a dude in a suit, right? That'll sell toys.
Right.
I'll give you 3 meals a day, a place to stay, and you can sleep with me if you want to. And he's just like, someone did the vampire bite you? He's like, who gives a shit about this? Sex! He's a very, like, I think, like, pansexual or asexual character, where, like, the person, he's not interested in, you know what I mean? Like, his character seems to not really, and I don't even know if he's not interested in it, but it almost seems like he doesn't think he deserves to have that because he's like self-loathing. I think that's like one of the reasons why he goes after specifically other vampires because he's trying to like wipe out what his like, you know, father created and stuff.
Would you say that he has become the thing he hates? Or he's like, I won't be.
Paid cops show up and he's like... but like, yeah, he's definitely, okay, cool. Well, the audio is going to be weird for half of this because they never recorded. I'm an idiot.
What happened?
Hey, yeah, it's alluded to, and I think even in the books, like, they kind of allude to it. In the second one, they call, like, your father was the vampire king, and in the first one, they kind of say, you know, was your father, and then he, like, dies or whatever, but, like, I think, like, in the books and stuff, it's alluded to, like, the original vampire Dracula was his actual, like, father, and, like, Mina from, like, the books or whatever was his mother.
Cool.
So, like, he's supposed to be... Because, like, Alucard, I guess, is supposed to be, like, you know, like, he's that kind of a thing. But, like, definitely a cool thing because they kind of show, like, later on, you know, in this post-apocalyptic land that, like, vampires took over and then they kind of went away and stuff. But they always talk about, like, the holy ancestor... Not the holy ancestor, but, like, the sacred ancestor or whatever. Him.
That's really cool.
So they've got like a cyborg horse in this, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
It's like a little cool touches like that, you know.
Yeah, totally. Very it's so creative.
One of my only complaints is like, since it was like in the 80s and stuff, they kind of, I think, like, and there weren't, like, as many, like, quality assurances. Some of the dub dialogue is a little run-on sentence-y, kind of like Speed Racer. Not that bad, but you know what I mean? I think it's not because of the actors. I think it's more so, like, because it all comes down to, like, the director to tell them, like, hey, you need to kind of maybe give it this inflection and stuff.
Pork chop sandwiches.
Yeah! I'm like, D's like, you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it. What are you going to do? I'm going to tighten my belt by one loop so I don't feel hunger pains. And I suggest you do the same. It's like...
So good.
I love it. So, Greco and D, I think were like the best actors so far in the film to this point that not that I thought the other ones were horrible, but I thought that they had, like, their performances. I looked up a lot of the people, and I think D is really the only person that has gone on to do a lot more stuff. Like, he's still doing voice acting to this day.
Cool.
There was a part that was kind of mixed a little weird with the audio, like the crowd when they're explaining stuff, like to the doctor and all this stuff. There's like the crowd is like way too loud, and I was just like, how? They're all outside like, oh, fucking this is bullshit. But D's played by Michael McConaughey, who played like, you remember when we watched like the Studio Ghibli Lupin or whatever, the animated one, the animated one. He played the Count of Cagliostro, so he played like the main guy or whatever.
Nice.
And he played like the agency head from the Crackdown games, if you ever remember those from like Xbox. And he did Barry from Resident Evil.
Barry!
And he did like the voiceover for Tatsu and TMNT 1, the live action film.
Cool.
So those are just the things I thought of, that we might remember him from and stuff. Guy gets stabbed and his eyes widen. I was just like, holy shit. Like when that guy gets stabbed and he's like, I was like, the animation is definitely like, they're two different animation styles, which is very cool to like.
The first movie seemed like more abstract, I think.
Yeah.
Which I
the
like
one
that.
lady had like a very big forehead, which I'm not saying like anything bad about, but that's kind of like the animation style.
A 5 head.
I've never heard that before. That's funny. Yeah. Which is weird because like in certain scenes she doesn't. So I think it's just whatever. So we've got it's just some more stuff. I'm like, more crazy stuff. Nasty Monsters Scared of Orb thing that D pulls out when he's walking through like a tunnel. I was like, dude, this is like Indiana Jones to 11 here. This is so disgusting.
Definitely.
But he pulls out like this little thing, and they're like, oh, stop it, you're frightening me. This was something that was kind of cool. I'm like, this is the only thing. D's cloak like grabbed on to like a ledge.
That was a nice touch.
And I honestly didn't know this, but like Doctor Strange's cloak does that same thing, and I was like, where have I seen this before? And I was like, it's the same thing where it's like a sentient thing. I was like, dude, that's really cool. Like that, like you said, that whole thing where it's just like, so then we've got nude sirens playing harps that turn into snakes.
The Lamia.
Yeah.
I thought those were very cool characters because at first I was like, they reminded me of the 3 Brides of Dracula.
Yes.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Those were probably my favorite characters.
Yeah, very cool, man. He like ends up like biting them and like killing them that way or whatever because he like, that's one thing is like D is always fighting against his like nature to want to like kill humans and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting
Yeah.
in both movies actually.
Yeah.
Between D and the villains.
Yeah.
Of like, because D is not totally heroic and the
Yeah.
villains aren't totally villainous. There's like
Right.
a gray.
I think
area
that's
for
why,
both.
yeah, like especially like the second one, I that's what I like is like Meyer Link's whole thing.
Yep.
Which what kind of a name, man? That's such a name, Meyer Link.
If you go to Meyer, you
Yeah,
can get sausage links.
he's like, he's like a dog begging for a link. He's like, oh.
Like, give me a sausage.
That's not. It's like vampires can't tell it's not bacon. So giant gold head bursts through a wall, spits out a dude that has holes on his back that spits out spiders. Then they get captured. I was cracking the fuck up when that happened because it was like, bleh, and then the guy's like, yee, and then spiders jump out of his back and they're like, ooh, and I was just like, dude, this is just
Keeps
like,
topping itself.
Yeah, a fever dream. So the snake people are like sucking, like essentially like taking away his life force or whatever, and like he's like they are in ecstasy. I was like, yeah.
There was something going on there.
Yeah. And I'm not trying, like, I love both these films. I'm not trying to, like, harp on anything, like, negative, because at the end of the day, I'm still going to be like, this movie's fucking awesome. But it's just kind of to go along with that that time period for some things, because the Studio Ghibli films, there were a lot of films that came out around that time that were completely fine because they had quality assurance with the, but like some of the, I think, conversations were a little weird, where it's like, so like the Count's just like, you're gonna be mine forever and all this stuff, and like no matter what you say won't change anything, he's quite dead, and she's like, please save him, and he's like, okay, I will. And I was like, what? It was kind of like the dialogue from like Strike Commando for some of this stuff. Count Magus is like, Disneyland's a great place where you can go. You just go up trees and get popcorn, and a genie grants all your wishes. I'm like, what's
popcorn at Disneyland?
What's with the fucking
That's all that matters.
Genies? The djinn, if you will.
One of the coolest things that I thought was so interesting were like, in this world, the victims of vampirism were almost like treated as like outcasts and pariahs.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like the stigma of AIDS in the 80s,
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's, and I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, they had something like that in like the new like Final Fantasy games, where if you're like branded, you're treated like essentially worse than like animals.
Really,
like
really
you said, yeah,
touch.
like there's pretty much just like, because people just don't want to have anything to do with it. It's just like, yeah, interesting. So Dee's like escaping the fortress, and there's a bunch of like bloody killings.
That was really cool.
Yeah, there's the giant and stuff, and all this
The
other
killings.
the killings. Sometimes when you gotta take a bath. That dub, holy
See our previous
shit,
episode
dude.
on Shogun Assassin.
My dad was the head chopper off for the Emperor. Okay, so then we got another random upskirt shot, and I put ha ha ha.
Why?
Because it was ridiculous. I was like, he just grabs her, and she's you could see up her fucking skirt, and I'm like, is this necessary?
You said LOL, lots of love.
Yeah, I was like, yee. Matt's trying to look into your soul.
There's something weird happening on the screen.
Yeah, it keeps doing that. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I'm sure everything's fine.
Yeah. Old school town with neon lights. I thought that was kind of interesting because it's like
a throwback.
Yeah.
And we all know about throwbacks. Are you telling me there's a throwback? I messed up.
I know exactly what you were talking about, so that's why you looked at me and I was like, should I even say it? Probably shouldn't. So it's kind of like it goes to show you, like, okay, this is like 12,000 years, or I guess 10,000 years in the future from now, but like, it's like society has come back, and like either these neon lights were put up there, or they like found the technology to put neon lights. But it's funny that like you see neon lights on essentially like an old school like fantasy town building.
That was awesome.
Yeah. It's something that kind of like, I guess isn't like, it's something they don't really do anymore, but like in this, it's like they do like the flashing lights a lot sometimes, and it's kind of annoying. It's like the scene where Greco is listening, it's like a seizure fest, and they kind of have a little bit of that in the sequel, but not as much. But it's like they don't really do that anymore, because I think obviously people are like, they're more sensitive to that, but it was like
not until Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning.
Jesus. Look straight into a strobe light for a 5-minute monologue.
It'll make you physically ill.
Yeah. You've no need to apologize. How you judge others is of no concern to me. I am what I am. And I was just like, did they get this off of a fucking Popeye cartoon? It's like, I am what I am, and that's all that I am. I was like, some of that dialogue, man, so good. This guy says, damn you. And the guy says, the feeling's mutual. I was like, okay. So a dude gets his arm cut off, and he's like freaking the fuck out, like in the most unbecoming way. It's the one.
Oh, you took my arm. You took my arm.
Oh shit! You took my leg. Ah! Oh, you son of a. Ah! It's like Joey took my leg. It's like, dude. This scene was so out of control, dude. Quickly, Doris, turn the carriage around. I can't. There's no room. She stands up with whip in hand. Just then, the doctor grabs the whip and cross from around her neck, somehow and for no reason revealing one of her breasts. My God, doctor!
There was a reason for that.
Haha, yes! That's who I used to be, until yesterday. His face contorts into a vampire. No! Oh no, not you too! Ah! Ha, ha. I was like, damn. So, like, the doctor that's, like, her friend was turned by, like, the, I guess we haven't talked about her yet, but she's the farmer's wife's, no, I'm just kidding. The, vampire, like, Magnus Lee's daughter. And, she has it out for, the main lady because Magnus Lee wants her to be his new bride, which would make her his mother. And she's like, she's a peasant. That shit can't happen. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing is like a lot of the vampires, both in this and in the sequel, see themselves as like better than humans, as like high, you know. They're like, ooh, in a room with
wavy gravy, man.
They see themselves as high. They see themselves as better. Like they're what do they call it in this? Crap. I don't know, something. But yeah. Shower scene, completely nude. Yeah, baby. This reminds me of the Street Fighter film that they had like around this time.
I never saw it.
Like Chun-Li in the unrated edition, she takes like a shower and she's naked, and I'm like, why? I mean,
pure exploitation.
I wanted to see it when I was little. I went, ee. So at 55 minutes and 20 seconds, we've got Seizure Fest 2.
I don't mind that stuff, but I definitely understand it being annoying for some people.
Yeah, I mean, it's annoying as fuck. We've got a Star Wars line here where she says, I love you, and Dee says, I know. I thought that was a nice touch. I wonder if that was in the original or if like they added that, because obviously that's a line from Star Wars. I mean, not like anybody's never said that before, but you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Greku lived from falling like a year down a cliff. I thought that was, yeah. The candles. So we've got like this candle thing, and they use the candle, and fucking it's like, it like pretty much sends anybody that's like a vampire into pure like hell. They're like, because it's like a concentrated sun. And they reveal that Count Lee has lived for 10,000 years, and it's like, Jesus. They talk about like the amount of time and stuff like that. It's ridiculous in this film.
Yeah. That's always the thing about vampires, is like they're tortured by having to live so long.
Well, usually it's like they don't really talk about how much time, and even the time that they do is like, oh, he's lived for like 1,000 years. But this is like time that's like incomprehensible to a human. It's like longer than, you know, it's long.
It is.
Yeah. The candle goes out, and Count Lee like brains this one dude because he's like, I'm gonna be the master now. And he's just like, nah. And he like turns the fucking candle off and like smashes him against the wall. And he was like, his head just fucking explodes. I thought this was a really cool scene where like after that happens, like a knife just goes in the Count's eye. And he like pulls it out, and like the eyeball goes out, and then it just goes back into his eye and heals. And he's completely fine. And that's when he like turns, and it's just like, fucking, it's D. He's like, you know, pissed or whatever.
Wouldn't you be?
I guess he wasn't really pissed. He was just kind of annoyed because he's trying to like marry this lady in an unholy sacrifice, or not? I mean, an
unholy rite.
Yeah, unholy rite. Not a sac. He kills her. He's like, whoops. So at this point, he's just kind of like, how the hell, you know, who are you? And that's when he's just like, oh crap. You know, he finds out he's Dracula's son. And he gets fucking squished by a wall. I'm like, well, so he's fucking dead.
Yep.
So then the castle falls and like the land goes full Studio Ghibli.
That was so cool.
Yeah, this was probably the best looking part of the entire film by far. But
the most beautiful and serene.
It goes, it goes pretty good. And then, what's it say here? And then, they're kind of like at the end, they're like, come back and see us sometime. And he's just like, and he just like rides off. So it's like, it's a happy ending.
It's a nice ending.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Yeah, I was going to have more stuff about the book, but I got like 7 minutes in and kind of...
7 minutes?
Well, the 7 minutes in because it was like... I was like, man, I got to work on stuff. I got to like post stuff for the thing. I got to record stuff for like the intro for the skit and a bunch of other stuff. And I guess I probably could have put it
maybe
on my
someday.
phone. Yeah, I mean, I want to go through all the books because I like this world and I like the character and stuff like that. It's just, I would love if they did more stuff with Vampire Hunter D. It's kind of shocking they never have. They've only done these two. And as far as animated stuff, there's never been a show, which I was shocked. I'm shocked about. And like, there's only the first movie, and then it took them 20 years to make a fucking another one. Like, okay, like I don't know why if it's such a big selling thing. I don't know. It might not just be that big outside of Japan.
Yeah. So. I can't believe we got through the whole movie without talking to the hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. So that's something I guess I'm kind of surprised I never
By the way,
said
that's a talking
anything.
hand. What? Yeah, what?
They never talked about that. So he's just called Left Hand. And he's like this parasite symbiote, kind of like Venom, that's in his like left hand that like talks to him, and like if it's detached it can like reattach, and it has like essentially like a black hole that could suck stuff up into. I don't know why we didn't really say anything about it till now, honestly. I guess maybe I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna talk about this, and like everybody knows about Vampire Hunter D, right? So that was my bad. I'm sure I might have had a note up here about. Maybe I did.
I didn't know that about the character, and I was surprised and delighted.
Well, if you had never even known this character, I mean, that's when you would not really know anyway. So it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, totally. I can't believe you don't know anything about Vampire Hunter D. But
I only know about Vampire Hunters A through C.
Vampire Hunter V. So yeah, Vampire Hunter D. Matt has the digitally remastered DVD with a Japanese trailer and other Sentai trailers, which cool.
Yeah.
I wish that there was like more stuff in these films for like special features, but I guess for the first one at least there's not really anything. But like you said, at least it looks good. So it's not like a bad transfer, thank God.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my knowledge of animation is very small. I've seen only a handful, but I think this is my favorite Japanese anime that I've seen so far.
Nice.
It was awesome.
You liked it better than Howl's Moving Castle?
I think so.
Damn.
It's more up my alley. I like dinosaurs and monsters and stuff more than...
So that one scene in the beginning was better than an entire library of...
Yeah.
Cool.
I give it a 9. I give it a 9.95.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, it was great.
For sure. I give it the same.
Nice. Should we talk about Bloodlust?
So let's get on to this. I guess I would say it's a sequel. I mean, I guess like in terms of like taking place, I don't know in what order these books take place, but this takes place, in the third book. So, yeah.
Yet another adventure.
Yes. So this is a 2000 film that came out.
Wait, so you're telling me that sequel stories can tell totally different stories?
No.
Never mind. Let's not go into that.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
I was talking about like Obi-Wan, where they tell the same story over again, and Willow, they see legacy sequels.
Or like Indiana Jones, where they're like, hey, let's fucking make a second film be a prequel.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that. Like, I didn't really know that till recently. Like, not recently, but like, like years ago. It's like,
It really doesn't matter to the story.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter anyway because it's like they're all different. They all have different fucking essential Bond women in them. So we got the same character in this, D. This is based on the third novel of Hideyuki Kikuchi's Vampire Hunter D series, The Demon Death Chase. The legendary Dampier competes with a motley family of bounty hunters to return a young woman who has been seemingly abducted by a vampire to her family. So this one, once
Sorry,
again,
Mario, your princess is in another castle.
This is another one where like there's a woman involved that is like, being taken by a vampire, but not all things are as they seem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the animation in this like blew me away when I first saw this. I was just like, holy shit.
The level of detail has been taken up a notch for sure.
Yeah. Like the crosses all over the place, and it's like and they like freaking bend as like the carriage approaches, and then like a fountain freezes, and then like when the window opens, the roses like wilt and die. The window or like the mirror breaks or whatever. It's just like you said, like the level of detail has risen.
I just comparing the two, the first one I enjoyed the style a little bit more because it was a little bit more over stylized and much more colorful. Like this one is a lot more like sepia toned and stuff because it's kind of a different.
Like the first one's like pretty like drab in some areas. Like
I
don't know. Yeah, I mean like not really the colors, but just like there's a lot of like I don't know things
more simplistic maybe.
I don't know. I mean, obviously like it's a different time period too, so it's like obviously like things have come a long way, but like I don't think not that. I think it was more just like I don't know. Things truly shone for me like how great that movie looked like in the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the like when it was like the greenery and stuff. But having said that, I mean it still like looks way better than like a lot of stuff that was being done at the time. But I think like this movie definitely like for me at least I was like holy shit because like you said there was just so much like obviously it's a lot more like hyper realistic, so it's definitely not like as out there with like the way it looks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely I think the difference. This one's kind of like a painting, the other one's kind of like closer to like photography kind of, maybe, if that makes sense. Maybe as far as like the difference in art styles go.
I would almost think the opposite. Because this one looks more like technically realistic.
Right, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this one looks more like a photograph or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I
thought you were I flip-flopped what you were saying. Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
But it's definitely I think it's definitely like a personal taste for sure with like what you like as far as like animation goes. Not that I would take this over like a Studio Ghibli film. But it still looks freaking it looks freaking out of control. Like it just they don't really make films that look like that either anymore, like animated films, like or just animation in general. Like it has like its own look, but like nothing to that same look of like Ninja Scroll or like,
Yeah, I mean,
which is weird.
There's something different about hand animation versus on digital.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
But it definitely is different as far as like how it looks because they don't make a look like that anymore. Like just like
digitally.
Well, no, not digitally, just an animation look.
Mm-hmm.
Like as far as like how the person like is drawn or whatever, because like I don't know, I think that the studio that used to do this kind of stuff, I don't think like manga or whatever isn't around anymore. I don't even know if that's who did it, but it's that same kind of look or whatever. But yeah, a lot of those companies from the 90s and 2000s aren't even like around anymore. It's like completely different.
I didn't realize
studios. I think really the only ones that like obviously survive that are the big ones are like obviously like Disney and like Ghibli and like a bunch of, I'm sure a couple other ones, but that was a big one back in the day, was like manga, and they did like Ninja Scroll and all those, and then I think they were really just putting out like movies, and then those ended up not being as profitable as like big companies that would do series and stuff, and then they just kind of were like, we're done. Anyway, so this one also has like a intro text crawl kind of thing to it, where it's like, the distant future, vampires rule the night, but their numbers are dwindling with huge bounties on their heads. A class of hunters has emerged. Bounty hunters. I was just like, okay. One hunter is unlike all the others. He is a dun peel, a half-human, half-vampire at war with himself, feared by all, tortured and alone. He is Vampire Hunter D. I like the intro for this one. It was pretty cool with, like, it kind of reminded me of, like, the Bond films where they would have, like, a little intro, then they would show, like, the title, and then it would go into the film. I miss those. In films that are, like, they should have had, like, a thing where, like, D came out like Austin Powers, and it played Soul Bossa Nova. He's nude while, like, things are being put in front of him or whatever. He's like, I'd be like, what?
I think you think that about every movie. Like,
I do.
It would be better if it had Austin
Every
Powers
movie
opening.
would be better if it had a musical intro. Honestly, can you think of a single movie it wouldn't be better?
It should be Soul Bossa Nova. Like,
I think
Schindler's
I would be
List
the
should
only
have had
one that would like that. Everybody else would be like, oh my god, it's getting old.
Just like I say, every end credit should have a blooper sequence, no matter what.
I think it would be better if an end sequence was like a musical number too.
I do enjoy that.
Musicals are legit, dude. But that's why I like Last Boy Scouts so much, because they have that like beginning. It's like, okay, this part's awesome, no matter what. So at the beginning, they give D $10 million to bring back Charlotte, who was taken, which it's like, this far in the future, like, this guy must be balling if like everybody else is like essentially like, you know, in the Wild West, and he's just like, yeah, here's $10 million. So this guy must be like some sort of like baron of some sort. It's funny because it's very much like it's like there's a mix of like desert and green areas and like futuristic areas and like just all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect.
Graveyard and you know, the part with the zombies, I've always thought that part was really cool. They call them zombies, but I'm pretty sure they're just like vampires. I think that was maybe a translation.
Like I Am Legend style.
Yeah. Oh god, the fucking CG dudes. Are you a fucking CG dude? So did you see a carriage come through here with 4 horses? No. Then he grabs a man and he like is like, you're lying, and that's when like, yeah, like I thought this was really cool because this reminded me of like, I think something that you would have written back in the day, like your little, like your zombie story you were talking about, where like the tank that has like they have like cross spotlights and all
that
this
was
other
so
cool
clever.
stuff.
That was such a clever touch.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of something that cool.
But yeah, this awesome action where like they have these like guys that essentially like, it's a troop of people called like the Marcus Brothers, where it's like the brothers and then like this lady and this like guy that's like really sickly with them, but he has like awesome powers. But like they essentially go out and they go after all these like, essentially they do bounty hunting too, but they're like used to hunting like, you know, vampires and like all kinds of different stuff, because they fight all these like, you know, ghouls or whatever that like come out of the thing here. And they're like, this one dude has a huge hammer that has a point on it, and this other guy has like knives, like spinning knives or whatever, and this other guy has like a crossbow that he reloads super quick, and it's like a rain of arrows come down.
Yeah, that was cool. I wasn't super digging on those characters. I mean, they were definitely cool designs.
Yeah.
But they were a little bit annoying. Like, kind of like stock feeling to me.
Damn. Well,
yeah,
I didn't write them, so I don't care, I guess.
And at first, as I was watching this movie, I was like, this story is very like basic and standard, but it's actually not. There's more to it than that.
It's way more complicated than the first story, for sure.
Because, like, I was like, why do I...
You're like, why?
So like the vampire captures the girl,
right,
but she's into him. Like she has Stockholm syndrome
Right.
or something, and he treats her like awesome.
yeah,
And I was like, I want these people to be together. Like
Yeah.
But that's kind of like what makes it interesting.
I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Is it like, it's not that there's even, I think at first you think that maybe he's using, I guess we'll talk about that now, where like Meyer Link takes like Charlotte, and you think that maybe he takes her in the night and like it's against her will, but then you find out they actually love each other and they've fallen in love, and it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing where like obviously people are suspicious of a vampire taking a woman and her being like, yeah, I'm totally for it, because like what if he's using his like seduction powers? But then like there are parts throughout the film where you kind of start to question that, because she calls out his name at one point, and then there's a point where she like goes out and like shields him from being like killed, and like that's when Dee starts to think like, wait a minute, maybe everything I thought about every single vampire is wrong. It's like, you can't generalize and stuff, because there's definitely like, obviously like the first guy was like a bastard, like Magnus Lee or whatever,
Magnus.
but like it's not like it's like you said earlier, Dee's not like a saint, but like Meyer Link, even though he's done horrible things, he's not a demon. He's not
he doesn't really act villainous at all.
Right.
Like
it's like they allude to, obviously, like he's killed people in the past and he's sucked their blood, but that's like what a vampire is. And there's even a part, I think, where he's just like, when all the vampires are dead, who will mourn it? Will anybody even give a shit? Like, will anybody mourn our passing? And, will she remember me? That kind of stuff. And it's like, that's when you start to think, like, okay, like you were saying, it's not as simple as, like, because, like, these guys are hunters, but then they come off as kind of like, they start doing stuff that's kind of like bastardly, like at the end where they like are like, we'll just let her kill herself and then we'll just collect the bounty. And it's just like, dude, people don't do that shit if you're like good people. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So like, yeah. There's a line here that I thought was kind of funny, because it was like, I don't know if this, anyway, he says, beautiful, just beautiful, I applaud you, stranger. And I was like, what? Who the fuck says that? Like, he says that to D, and he's like, what's your name? And he's like, D, and then he just fucking leaves. I was like the guy with the cigar. So then we've got the sand mantas that show up. They're like these manta rays that are like huge, that like come out of the desert, and he like jumps on the backs of them, like with his horse. Very cool stuff. Another like visual feast.
Yeah, it was awesome. I thought that kind of ripped off Dune a little bit.
I didn't even think about that. What I said, mama. I guess anything like you could say that. I mean, coming out of the sand isn't a completely original thing.
Yeah.
So, so then we've got like a resting house, which essentially it's like a house or castle that has like these like, it's like completely camouflaged, and like it has like these lasers that he's like flicking pebbles up to like get to it, so it'll shoot those instead of him. And they're trying to like find the entrance with like his left hand and stuff, and then they're like a door, and that's when they like fucking fly out or whatever, essentially, like to escape. So they're essentially just they're not trying to hurt anybody, they're just trying to get the hell out and like go to some place where people won't try to kill them or kill him. Then we've got the lady on the unicycle fires a rocket, and like he completely deflects it, and she gets like fucked up because of it. This is definitely like animation-tastic, because it was like she's riding this unicycle and she randomly just jumps like 50 feet in the air and then is driving on the side of this house. I was like, okay, this is definitely like animation stuff. I'm like, did you know this is animated? You were like,
What
the fuck? In this version, so I guess we should talk about the differences between, because like there's really not a big difference between D in this film and the first one. I mean, obviously it's played by a different person, but like he's very soft spoken. In the two versions, the left hand's like the left hand in this one is more like kind of like a gross like lech almost. He's kind of like Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice.
He's like a scumbag.
Yeah. He's like, nice model, honk honk. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like you were saying, it's like, yeah, so like he essentially, Meyer Link is like, does anybody understand like the loneliness and stuff? And it's like he's finally found somebody, I guess, that he actually loves her. And it's like there's many times in the film where he's like about to like bite her, and then he like pulls back from doing it because he loves her and doesn't want her to like suffer being immortal too and stuff. But yeah. Then we've got these weird guys like the Barbaros that are kind of like carnival guys, but they've been around for like thousands of years protecting, like I say, work for like the people of the night and stuff. And this one guy jumps out of the shadows and just kills like the big guy from the Marcus Brothers like while he's standing up. But the old man of Barbaros who's like hitting on Dee is played by Dwight Schultz. We all know him as Murdoch from A-Team and Reginald Barkley from Star Trek.
I knew that name sounded familiar.
He also played the Mad Hatter from Batman, amongst many other things, but he plays a couple roles in this film, which is funny because I didn't know he does a ton of voice acting. I looked it up and I was just like, man, I really only know him from Star Trek and a couple other things, but he's not the original voice for the Batman animated series Mad Hatter. It was the guy that played the original Caesar and
Roddy McDowall?
Yeah.
Yep. He played that on the show too, the 60s show.
He's like, I'm a Roddy, baby. He's awesome. R.I.P.
From Fright Night.
Yeah. Now it's for real. For real. When we watch these films, it was for real. I was like, every frame, I was like, oh. When that night I had a fever dream. So Grove is the guy we were talking about earlier, where he has like the psychic abilities, where like he goes and becomes like a ghost, and it kind of reminds me of Vision from the old Avengers arcade beat 'em up, where he's like a white ghost and he's like shooting these lasers all over the place, but it's like really taxing. He has to like essentially take a shot to, I guess maybe, I'm assuming he like passes out or something, or like goes to sleep so that he can like then use this overpowered ability, but it's like killing him slowly. I always thought that was really cool. When I've seen like this before, I was like, when I first saw that, I was like, holy shit, dude, that is out of control. It's one of those things that ends up, obviously, like he uses it too many times and he kills himself doing it, but to try to save somebody. But it's one of those things in one of these films, like, where it's, like, not explained, which is completely, you know, like, I'm not saying, oh, what the fuck, why didn't they explain it? But it's, like, an unexplainable thing that's very cool and stuff. So
that reminds me of, I forget which game it was. It was one of the Turtles arcade games, where using the special move would cost you health.
Yeah, that was Turtles. Actually, a lot of them, I think.
A lot of them had that. But the first time I discovered that, like, I'd never felt more betrayed.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I discovered the special move, and I was like, whoa, I can win with this. And I kept doing it and doing it, and then I was like, no! Yeah. It was a heartbreaking moment. Like, it was like worse than when you find out Santa's not real. The special move takes away your health.
Wait, what?
What?
Santa's not real? You know what Santa spells? Satan! So we've got like a moment here where the horse hits the ground and guts explode from the cloth. I was like, oh, that was gross.
Lots of horse trauma in these movies.
Hashtag horse trauma. Justice for horses. So this shadow demon has like a cool death, like, or at least a satisfying death. Like when he dies, you're like, okay, he fucking is like, yeah, and his fucking eyes bulge out of his head.
Yeah, it was cool.
So we've got they kind of go into a town here. A lot of this reminds me of Trigun. Did you ever see that show? It's very like post-apocalyptic too, but another anime kind of deal. But we've got like a sheriff that's kind of like, we don't want you kind of see more of like D being treated like shit. Like you said, anybody that's involved with vampire, even if they're like half vampire and they're doing good and they've never done anything to harm humans, it's like, you know, he's being treated like shit. And then this old man talks about how like a stranger came in and saved all these kids from a vampire one time, and he ended up being that kid, and he's like an old man now, and he's just like essentially holding the like the sheriff at bay with a gun. He's just like, just get out of here with the horse and stuff. I always felt bad, and I want to thank you for that and stuff. And it's just like D looks exactly the same as he did back then. He doesn't age, so it was just like, it's a very cool way of showing like his non-aging.
It's a nice touch.
Yeah. So just like Jan Valak and John Carpenter's vampires, D buries himself to survive the sun.
that was
I thought that was
nice
cool.
bed.
Yeah. He made his bed and now he has to lay in it. It's like,
got to reference Thomas Ian Griffith in every.
Oh yeah,
so you did it. Nice.
It's my goal. This is a very like Deus Ex Machina moment when like they're fighting like this poison ivy lady multiple times, and then she gets struck by lightning, and that's how she dies. I was like, it's got to be one of those in every movie.
She was cool, but it was also like kind of very 90s cartoonish type design. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of the stuff is straight up stuff from like, I feel like very close to like Castlevania. There's always got to be like a person that's like, what's it called? Like plant based or something,
right?
And like Meyer Link is like out in the sun trying to save Charlotte. I thought it was very cool. Like his character, he's essentially like burning to death in the sun, and he's like,
but he can handle it pretty well,
yeah.
like relatively well. But yeah, I thought that was awesome. He's basically engulfed in flames.
Yeah. I thought this werewolf was like fucking weird because like I didn't remember this at all. I thought he was just a werewolf, but like when he transforms, he has like a fucking mouth in his stomach.
I thought that looked really dumb.
I was like, what the fuck?
That was a major misstep. Like,
it was like
very silly.
Well, no, it was like Ghostbusters cartoon like toy style.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
That was a little bit lame, but it was interesting. It's different.
They do a switcheroo, and he like jumps off the bridge and gets killed. The fucking one of the or he doesn't die, but you think he's gonna die. The Marcus brother or whatever. So there's a huge ass castle with like a bridge, and essentially you kind of find out like Meyer, like D doesn't want them to have a kid together to like essentially make like another one of him. Like he's like, he wants to put a stop to all this, dog shit, I guess. That's what it should just say. Vampire D wants to put a stop to all this bullshit. Bullshit lust.
I didn't expect to see rocket ships in this movie.
Yeah, that was something that I
like,
forgot about that I thought was really, really, really cool. That it makes sense for the amount of time that like vampires have been around that they mastered space travel.
Yeah.
Because it's a very different dichotomy from like the rest of the world is essentially like like Western. It's like a apocalyptic. It's like Mad Max and all this other crap in certain aspects. But then, like you said, there's like futuristic technology because the vampires, I'm sure, like, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense because, like, what are the humans going to go and fucking take the rocket? Like, they're going to be destroyed by the fucking vampires because they're so powerful in this version of, like, vampirism. But then D kills the shit out of the werewolf, and he's like, I'm glad I fought someone strong like you. And I was like, okay. So then you find out that, like, yeah, the castle they go to is this place that a lot of vampires go to like, for safe haven. It's like, the bloody Countess Carmilla that, like, you know, she did all this horrible shit, and, like, Dracula had to step in and kill her in her sleep, I guess, because she was going so out of control that even he was like, okay, you're fucking ruining this for everybody. So she's kind of like, you know, that was a bunch of bullcrap. All that stuff was lies spread about me and stuff. I'm hungry. But they talk about how, like, a long time ago, like, I guess every castle had, like, a rocket to escape into space, which I thought was very cool. Very cool sci-fi mixed with a bit of paranormal. I like this. More instances of, like, Meyer not biting Charlotte. He loves her, but he's fighting his instinct.
I was like, this guy's a pure gentleman.
Yeah. She's like, I want you, Meyer. All of you. It's like, so he, like, is like, I gotta, you know, take care of something. Dee's here. And he leaves, and he, like, goes, and, like, Dee's like, she said she wanted to leave with me, or, you know, like, she is leaving of her own free will, and he's just like, I don't believe it. And that's when he gets, like, cut in half and killed or whatever, and you're like, holy shit. And you're like, what's going on here? And you find out that, like, Carmilla actually is trapping all these people that are coming here to, like, trick them and kill them, and essentially so she can, like, get Charlotte's blood to be reborn and stuff. So, because I guess the person that was showing them around was a ghost. So Dee, of course, sees through the illusion of his mother and stuff, and saves the lady, what's her name, Leela or Layla or something, and
yeah, Layla,
and Charlotte gets bitten by, like, Meyer Link, but it's actually not him, because he's dead. But then, you know, it's just like all this stuff happens where it's just like, what is going on here with, like, the illusions? And then they finally confront her, and Meyer Link actually shows up again and, like, kills her, like, real form, while Dee kills, like, the ghost, and she's like, shit, and gets, like, killed. She says that. I just simplified it. You don't have to watch it because she just says shit. I thought this was kind of cool, though, because, like, at the end of the film, they essentially, it's like, okay, we're going to have, like, a standoff, and there's going to be a fight, and Meyer Link's going to get killed, and, you know, which is what you would expect to happen, but, like, he misses and doesn't kill Meyer Link, and instead just takes Charlotte's ring and lets, like, Meyer and Charlotte leave in the, like, the rocket and stuff. And, like, at the end, they're like, you know, you see him, like, take off into space in the rocket. I thought that was really cool, because especially back in the day, that would have been so formulaic for him to just be like, you know, oh yeah,
the final showdown.
Yeah, and he just kills him, and, you know, good is good and evil is evil.
Right.
So, I think that's one of the things that really stands apart in this that I thought was really cool.
I agree. It was a very cool ending, very satisfying.
And there's definitely, like, this is something I completely forgot about at the end, where, like, Dee shows up to this, like, funeral, and you're like, well, who's this for? Is this for, like, maybe Charlotte or whatever? Like, because, you know, maybe they're burying the ring and being like, you know, she was a good person and stuff. And you find out, like, this, like, girl goes up to Dee, and it's just like, are you here for my grandmother's funeral or whatever? And it's like, you find out it's Layla's funeral. So this is so far in the future that, like, Dee hasn't aged at all. Oh yeah, but he shows up at the funeral, and yeah, so much time has passed.
Very cool.
Yeah, and the last line, "You're not so bad. You just dress bad."
And
he's like, I like to move. They should have had bloopers. It's like, what? How would they animate bloopers? They used to do that where they would put voice line bloopers like in the outtakes and stuff, but they don't really do that anymore. I always thought that was really cool, though, because I have a couple like animes where at the end, like, or like a special feature, it's like outtakes that they like put to some stock footage of the characters.
I like
I
that.
was like, dude, that's really cool. I just wish they would. Yeah, that would definitely be cool. You're just like me, Mimi.
So yeah.
Any other notes?
No. Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. It was very enjoyable. But I think it's just a little bit of a step down for me from the original. My score will be 7.95.
Damn. There you have it.
How about you?
9.95. They're both awesome.
Nice. Well, we did it. The Vampire
We
Hunter
did.
D double feature in the books.
Yep, in the pocket. So I'm excited to hear about next time.
Yeah, so we're going to do another experiment. I hope it doesn't fail.
We're not
like
watching
Ishtar.
Welcome to Melsport again. Fuck that.
So I wanted to pick a movie for a long time called
Sweet!
To Live and Die in L.A., which is a cop movie directed by William Friedkin.
Huh. I don't know who that is.
He directed The French Connection.
Who's that?
So, but this time we're in the 80s, and one of the things he tried to do was top the chase scene in French Connection. Did he or not? You be the judge.
So what's the experimental thing?
I want to do a double feature.
Oh. Well, what the fuck? No one's ever done that.
And I wanted to pick a movie that not only have I never seen, I've never heard of this until 2 days ago.
Is it like Christmas in Connecticut?
Yeah, yes.
Oh,
it's
Jesus.
going to be a situation like that, hopefully. But it's a comedy from the early 90s starring Bob Hoskins called Passed Away.
Holy shit, this is on my list.
What?
Yes.
How?
What do you mean how?
I've never even heard of this movie until I was stumbled on
Where
it.
he turns, it was like a fucking ghost or whatever?
He is?
Yeah.
I
or
know
not, he's
nothing
a
about
ghost.
it.
Oh shit, sorry.
The connection between these two is William Peterson.
It's Bob Hoskins.
But I usually don't pick
Dude.
stuff that I've never seen, so it could go good or bad.
I try to pick stuff well, that's not true. I picked this I had seen.
So
and this
To Live
I
and Die in
hadn't.
LA is a legit.
I think
good
I had
movie.
heard of that before, but
I hope you'll enjoy it. But Passed Away, I guess we'll find out.
I'm like 0. This was shit. I'm like, I can't get back the time I spent watching it. Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm always down.
So I guess
for
it's William Peterson week.
Bob Hoskins. He's just brings out the hook. Like, here comes the hook. We got the hook. Sweet, man. Well, I
right.
guess,
We did it.
yeah. I guess until next time, guys. Thanks for watching, as usual. And,
Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Save us! Mike, Vince just saved us. Let's just get ourselves to the city of night and distant podcasts.
Well, I guess we should just quit vampire hunting while we're ahead.
Well, I wish I could go with you boys, but...
But you can, Vince. The rocket fits 995 people.
Yep, like I said, it's a real shame I just can't go with you, so... Okay, let's get out of here.
Yes, let's go get a bite to eat.
Okay, Matt, let's get on that rocket. All right, let's go.
Nobody's perfect.
Watch me win.
You started
Watch me
whipping my
man.
ass. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, give me. All episodes of Monk. Okay. I'm like, all right, Matt. This is the heart. All right, Matt. This is the heart of vampiric territory.
Sorry.
You're holding the whip.
It whips the llama's ass.
Vampire Hunter D. It really whips the llama's ass.
Aren't vampires supposed to be like immortal and stuff? Did I mess up?
No, I think you were waiting for my fucking next line. and,
Missed a part.
and I thought you like fucking turned into a robot because you were just like looking straight ahead, and I went. Okay.
All right, here we go.
The Buddy Barbs.
Whoa!
Jesus, man.
I'm here. Wait. Sorry. Shit, let me try one more time.
And I forgot to say in that way. I'm an idiot. Okay. Wait! No!
That sounded way too stupid. Why would I do that? Oh my god.
From this angle, it'll have us kind of like run out past it. Okay, let's see here.
She laid down immediately.
Okay, Matt, let's get on that rocket!
Alright.
That was like the slowest urgent thing I've ever done. That was like,
We're saved!
well, like vampire. Fuck, I can't speak.